What kind of people will you never understand?
Mr. Reddit.
People who visit beautiful trails, parks, and/or beaches and leave their litter everywhere.
People who take other people's food out of a workplace fridge. People occasionally still do this at my warehouse job where there are thousands of cameras throughout the building with a large focus in the break rooms because we have a Market C store inside. No employees, you just grab what you want and pay at a kiosk. So if you steal someone's food, or steal from Market C, they just roll the tapes and find out who did it, and the camera can track them through the warehouse, so they just wind it back till it tracks them badging into the building, and they are able to identify them that way and fire them immediately. No warnings.
People who are mean to service/retail workers for no reason. Wait, you mean you don't yell at workers and cause a scene at the service desk because you overpaid 35 cents on a box of Cheerios when in reality you just read a sign wrong? Crazy stuff. When I worked retail, people argued with me over the most stupid shit. Then they'd ask for a manager, and I'd tell them the manager will tell them the same exact thing I already said. Then the manager comes over, says the same shit, and then the person is suddenly fine with it. Half of customers have main character syndrome and act like the company is out to screw only them.
People who make insane messes in public restrooms. I did custodial in a university building for a semester, and let me tell you, I saw some shit. There were some people that had very bad days in some of those bathrooms. Ache how it can spray the stall. I've never had diarrhea of that magnitude. But some people have apparently had some struggles beyond what I thought was gastrically possible.
People who abandon their dog at the side of the road when they're tired of it or want to get to vacation without it, or tie it up in the backyard and won't feed it. The neighbor feeds it out of pity, and repeatedly calls police/animal control, and the owner still doesn't want to give it up. I stole a dog being mistreated once. Decades ago. The lady was beating it and chaining it up all day in a horrible spot. It got loose somehow and went to a much better home in another county where he lived out his days sleeping on the couch and going hiking.
Child abusers. I watch a lot of true crime content and the degree to which some people straight up torture their children. It's absolutely incomprehensible. I cannot understand it. Even if you don't love them, how can a person do such awful things and just go on with their day? One of my classmates openly talked about his parents beating him, starving him, kicking him out for weeks at a time, etc. He even explicitly told teachers about it. Nothing ever happened. CPS never even got fucking called. Hope he's doing okay now. Several years ago I was teaching in a country small town. One of my students, she also had a younger sister and an older sister, repeatedly told me about the underground sex show her parents were running. And had way too many accurate details to be making anything up. She and her sisters were always poorly dressed and half-starved. They knew to come to my classroom for snacks. As a mandated reporter, I had to call CPS. The parents showed up to the school, removed their daughters from school and disappeared. Those little girls still haunt me.
People that leave a mess in their hotel room. You don't have to clean it, that indeed isn't your job, but to be polite enough to just flush the toilet, don't have your shit-stained towels on the bed with your sheets on the floor.
People who keep having kids when they can't look after the ones they have. I knew of a kid whose parents who couldn't take care of him, so they sent him to foster care. But then later finding out that the mother refuses to take him, and the grandparents are so tired of the kid's attitude, that he had to continually get passed around in the foster system by people who wanted to make money for taking in the difficult ones, but getting tired of his BS. It's disheartening.
Abusive people who take joy in making other people miserable, or abusive people who keep saying they're super sorry and act all lovey-dovey with you, but the next minute they are telling you that it was your fault that they hit you, and remind you that you can't afford the rent alone. I understand that as them breaking their victim down into never leaving so that they can keep their toy until they get bored.
People who hurt animals. I work at a veterinary office and the things you see humans do to innocent animals is abhorrent. I can't sleep at times thinking about it. I work at a veterinary office as well, but it's a smaller vet clinic. When I was in my second week there, a police officer brought us the mutilated bodies of 2 huskies he found dead in a ditch on the side of some road. We x-rayed them. It looked as though they had been brutally beaten with broken jaws and multiple other fractures, shot full of birdshot, and one of them showed evidence of being strangled. We somehow found the owners online. They had posted that they were looking for their 2 huskies with a picture of what they looked like included. The bodies we had looked almost unrecognizable. I have no idea what came of that situation in all honesty. I have no idea if the owners were able to get retribution, but I really hope they did.
People who can never admit they're wrong, I think, as someone who used to have this issue, that it is shame-based. If you're wrong, you feel shame, and if you feel shame, you feel like a bad person, and even though you feel that way, you don't want people to agree with it. Because saying it out loud, it means having to reconcile with the fact you're a bad person. Learning to admit when you're wrong also means accepting yourself, and people with low self-esteem will struggle with that, and it begins with the way we're treated as children when we make mistakes, combined with how our parents deal with their mistakes. At least, that's my take on it, from experience.
I will never understand people who are intentionally cruel or unkind to others. Whether it's bullying, manipulation, or just plain rudeness, I can't wrap my head around why someone would choose to hurt others. Empathy and kindness cost nothing, and I'll always be baffled by those who seem to lack them. I have everything in common with my brother, except cruelty. It's so fucking strange. He has beaten up 3 homeless people, for no goddamn reason. Yes, he's funny, a great uncle, creative, hardworking, successful. But physically, he is an abusive person. How? We have the same amazing parents, same childhood, it's just like randomly he gets into fights with only people that are weaker than him. He doesn't drink, so drugs, was never abused or neglected. Just likes going all BJJ, ground and pound, he needs to be arrested at least once, FFS.
People who even after you prove them wrong with facts, still keep on arguing trying to prove that they're right. Arrogant ass people. There are a couple terms that somewhat explain this. There is the backfire principle and belief perseverance. Essentially, the more facts that contradict someone's beliefs, the more they will resist and feel attacked.
People who ask your opinion then get mad because it isn't the same as theirs. I agree. I think I'm pretty easy to get along with. As long as you're a good person, I'll have no problems with you at all. But my opinion on things is that things are quite different from most people. Since I'm Canadian but live in one of the most southern parts of Ontario, a lot of people who do just as you described, not all people, but an annoying amount. People that idolize celebrities like their lives depend on it. This is going to make me sound awful, but I genuinely don't get people who full-on grieve over dead celebrities. It's not like they knew them. Their lives aren't going to change in any way because a celebrity has passed. You can't miss them. I feel sad for their friends and family who actually knew them, but it's not actual grief. Agree in that I can't understand the sobbing in the streets thing. That always seems strange to me. Though this reminds me, I was in a high school cafeteria when we all heard Kurt Cobain died. It was a dark mood that day. Some kids did freak out a little, but I will say I've shed a tear for, say, a famous musician or actor that died. It wasn't because I felt I had a personal connection to them, but that I recognized their value to humanity. Maybe they brought laughter to a generation, or were just immensely talented in their art and I saw that as added value to the human experience. Or, I just heard enough about their life to have some empathy, like wow, it's so sad they had to die like that.
Parents who choose not to be involved in their child's life. I can't fathom it. What about ones who don't give gifts after their 18th birthday? I have a friend who told me his mom doesn't give him birthday gifts after he turned 18. I was, and still am, fucking shocked. In my opinion, that kind of behavior says you never actually wanted a kid. How are you not going to give gifts to someone you love on their birthday? How can you ever justify that? The worst part is he says she's still a good mom. I just cannot believe that the same person who immediately pulled out of giving gifts to her son is also a good person. It just doesn't add up. Whatever the reason why doesn't matter. Dumping your kid / the relating responsibilities as soon as it's legally acceptable is a sign you never wanted to be a parent, but did it anyway and brought someone into the world who then felt that they were unwanted. Because these people can't hide it.
People who act like entitled person, they think they own everyone and everything in the world, and feel entitled to take their dogs into grocery store and restaurants. Being rude to special needs people, mainly adults, stare at my Asperger's son because he is a toe walker. I feel like smacking them silly because now, he will hardly leave the house because of how adults have treated him. A few years ago, two adult men in a car at a light made fun of him. Honestly, they were lucky the light changed before I made it over there. Who calls a kid the R word, among other things, and thinks that SHT is funny? It's cruel, I'll tell you who. People who have no self-esteem, nothing going for them, and love to punch down to feel good about themselves. Picking on people with special needs is just psychotic.
People who brag about not reading books don't understand not reading, but bragging about it is even more incomprehensible to me. I assume it's some kind of defensiveness, my opinion. It's because people who read are perceived to be smart or intellectual, and this country has been on an anti-intellectual / smart kick for the past couple decades. I don't read, I'm not one of those people, or something like that. Just look at how much has been dumbed down in school and everywhere in this country.
People who say I don't need to read / learn anything else. People who drag friends / family members down when one of them is starting to get ahead or improve themselves. Rubberneckers who slow way down to look when driving by an accident. You know what's worse than rubberneckers? People that just stop in the middle of the road. Once I was in the car with my grandma and everyone was honking, so we decided to go a different way to the shop we were going to go past the traffic and see what's going on. A lady at the front was on her phone just typing, ignoring all the honking, the fact that the light was green and the fact that she is on a busy road. She wasn't even urgent, she was just casually typing.